Derek, you're back for another comparison ball review.
We're back again.
Back again. We're throwing the clone.
Yes. Up against some other pieces. I know I talked a lot about the reality in the pink slip video. Unfortunately, I don't have mine with me, so we're gonna do an Innovator solid. Same difference.
It's true.
Hooks a ton. I'll throw this in the same spot so that you guys kind of have an idea. You can see it just digs a lot sooner and just kind of rolls. It doesn't change directions nearly as hard as the clone does. There we go. As you can see, just very tumbly but very strong. The ball doesn't have a ton of surface on it, which it typically should. Which is why it's even a little more tumbly than it should be.
So do you think your clone is stronger than the Innovator solid or a step down?
Step down when that one has fresh surface for sure. This one's just gonna change directions harder. See, when that one gets to the spot, it jerks.
Yeah, you could see
really
that
strong, smooth ball. So I'll move one more, just because this one's retaining its energy really well. Actually, I'm gonna do two more. My nose is bleeding. That was good.
That was a good shot.
All right, so now I'm gonna go to the step down. A tall pin, at least for me, quantity to response. This one actually has its shine still on it. So this one will be a little bit longer down the lane, probably even more jerky down the lane, but it won't hook as much. You can see with the pearl in that one and just higher grit, it just gets down the lane really well and just saves everything it's got. In comparison to the clone, especially when we get the shine off of it, it's just a little more mid-laney, but still sees the lane and isn't afraid to change directions. I'm throwing like every other shot. I am just slamming on it.
Buddy didn't like that one, but it was good. So final thoughts on the ball, Derek. What would you rate it? You know, all that good stuff.
Like I said, guys, this ball is absolutely fantastic. It's a ball that I'm going to throw a lot, simply because it gets down the lane and isn't afraid to continue to change directions. This ball is the absolute nut for me. I'm loving this one. I can't say enough good things about it.
Mark Nasty.
That one was not very good either. Makes me look better than I am.
I love that you say that. So do you like the ball so far? I know you've only thrown it about 2 games or so. What's the thoughts on it?
I think it's really good. I was a big fan of the reality, so anything that kind of has that kind of shape, especially if it's a little bit cleaner, I feel that, especially on the West Coast, for all the friction, be able to use it a lot more often than like a reality or like one of those bigger balls. So I could see this being like a ball I can start with on like the longer medium patterns.
That'll get a smile on Mark's face.
It makes me feel like I'm Jacob. Guy never ate this. Messengers it every time. Makes me feel good every once in a while.
Do you miss with that ball?
I think it's going to be really, really good. Warm up too much at 3/6
So do these have a different shape or just
I
one?
feel the shape is very similar.
Okay.
It's just definitely cleaner and a little bit less responsive, I feel. But I mean, this reality I've probably thrown for a year and a half, so it, yeah, definitely slows down a lot harder. The clone, I feel, is going to be a little slower in the friction, where the reality still sees the friction and goes harder off of it. Yeah, I have to keep that in the oil in order to get it to go through the pins. Whereas that one, I can throw it to the right and it goes through the pins still.
What do you think of the ball? How often do you think you're going to use it? And you know, what would you recommend to folks that are thinking about drilling one? You know,
I could definitely see myself using this a lot, especially with a various amount of tournaments that are going to be changing their patterns to kind of combat the urethane and do whatever they think they need to do. I could see myself using this on the fresh and on longer and higher volume patterns once they start to hook a little bit. And I mean, it's pretty fire. It hooked from right when they were on fire and saw it in the middle of the lane with the oil. Especially like on those clipped house shots when you have trouble moving left and just getting it to go through the pin still. This one's definitely fire.
All right, taking a look at the clone.
that's right.
See what she can do. Even in some oil, she'll still hook. It's a pretty good shot, maybe about a board or two inside. But again, having a stronger asymmetric ball, it'll read that oil. A little farther right. Oh, but the boys cooked them, so there's some miss room right now.
Do you think there's going to be a specific time where this ball comes into play more often than others?
For me, it would probably be on the fresh. It's the first ball out of the bag, the big, strong ASIM. If you have volume, if you know what you're bowling on and you know you're dealing with some volume, or you're bowling on a short pattern, you need something that's early enough but can be smooth enough to stand up once you add some more surface to it. I think it's going to be a ball for situations like that. House shot especially, first ball out of the bag, game one, I don't know, maybe even half a game, because it is pretty strong. Depends if you leave the polish. If you leave the polish, you can probably get away with a game, but she hooked all right. She definitely hooked off that spot pretty hard. And that was a 4-board move left. May have missed in a little bit, but definitely showcases that it's not going to have a problem typically coming off the spot. It's a good sign. You don't want the ball burning up. So, all right, I'm going to try and stand in the same spot, farther left, but this time I'll get it to finish properly. Let's do that.
All right.
I like that idea.
Let's do it.
That's pretty disgusting. I feel, based off the numbers, I think the DNA should technically be stronger than the clone. It is the last asymmetric big ball that Storm came out before the clone, so let's see what it looks like. DNA, and just for reference, in case anybody's wondering, this is a 5x4 by 1 3/4 layout. It is the same layout on 90% of my equipment. It's my go-to layout. So, I'm gonna stand in the same spot, just threw the clone in, see what this guy gives us. Definitely got some more surface on it. Definitely got more surface, a little smoother off the back end because you can see it reading the front a lot stronger. But again, I have more surface on that ball because I recently threw it on last year's US Open pattern. Anybody that's bowled on that knows you pretty much need 360 grip. So, but that was a pretty good looking shot there. A little you gotta slap them out. This is definitely inside, but again, more surface on the ball, allowed it to pick up, which definitely helped it get through the pins in that situation. One of the original asymmetric solids, number-wise and cover-wise, it's gonna be quite a bit weaker. I shouldn't say quite a bit, a little bit weaker overall numbers-wise and core-wise than the other two balls. Cover-wise, it's quite a bit weaker. If I remember right, this is E-Trax solid on here, which is nowhere near the strength of that EXO or the OptiTrax. So, but just for you guys, I'm gonna stand in the same spot as I just did with the DNA. We'll see if it makes the hill. Not a bad shot, a little inside, but again, where you see that weaker cover, didn't pick up that mid lane like the DNA or the clone does. So it gets it down lane just a little bit longer, gets behind the head pin, leaves that wrap 10. Still not enough. Just still not enough for it. So you can definitely see where that ball's a lot cleaner, a little bit weaker off the spot than the other two. That's definitely, I've been able to throw this ball game 3, 4. When you get a little more friction, it'll shape off of it. It'll definitely finish a little better. But sometimes with higher volume oil, without hitting it with some surface, it can be a little slow down. As you guys saw in the video, at least for me, I definitely still feel like the cover on the DNA is gonna be a little stronger. Again, it does have some more surface on it. They could be equal once you put that much surface on the clone. But I think the clone is a solid fire ball. Like, I think it's gonna be one of those go-tos on tough conditions, heavier volumes of pattern. I think you're gonna see more play out of it than what people might give it credit for. And I think you actually might see a lot more of it with the polish still on it in some cases. Depending on the pattern you're on, with lower volume, that polish helps it get through the fronts. And it definitely generated a little more shape and angle down lane versus the other two balls. You guys saw that kind of, I know it's hard to see the comparison in the house shot, but you could definitely see the little bit there, especially with the Rubicon not recovering enough and leaving those two ringing 10s or flat 10s, if you will. And the DNA definitely even getting through it, even when I missed in, was in more oil, still was able to push through and dig in. So I think you can see the differences there. I think the clone's gonna be a good punch right off the bag for somebody, right off the fresh. I think it's gonna be a good ball. There's not a whole lot to say other than it's a very strong asymmetric solid. It's cool to see Roto Grip step up off the gem. It was a hard one to come off of because very strong ball in its own right. So look for it at Virtue Bowling Supplies, guys. It's gonna be a good one.